Welcome back to the Grenadier podcast, Real Estate Uncovered. Today I speak with Dave Richards, world-renowned photographer, on top tips for your real estate brand. You obviously love this business. Tell me what you love the most about it. Today, an absolute exclusive. Welcome back to the Grenadier podcast, Real Estate Uncovered. Dave, can you introduce yourself to us?
Yeah, absolutely, Lisa. My name's Dave Richards. I'm a photographer based in Christchurch, originally from Australia. And yeah.
We are always so privileged to work alongside you. Tell me about your career and some memorable things that you're allowed to share with us.
I'm privileged working with you too. I've lived here in New Zealand for about 15 years. I got into photography when I was at school. I went for work experience with a local newspaper and was disorganised, so I only asked at the last minute and ended up loving it that much that I thought this will be a job that I'm going to do forever. I didn't do it forever, but I sort of left a while to get skills in other areas with other things, but kept going back to it and working with companies where I'd shoot their campaigns as well. And then finally decided to take the plunge probably about 15 years ago and have never looked back. But yeah, it's been really good fun. And we were just talking about it before we actually started rolling, but I find in New Zealand there's a good thing where everybody knows everybody, which means if you do a good job or a bad job, people find out. So you end up fairly busy and you can still work overseas as well. And
yeah, fantastic. Some of the campaigns you've done, can you share a little bit about them?
Yeah, I can. I think based here you work over a lot of things, but a lot of advertising and fashion campaigns and things like that. You're fairly lucky as a photographer, you get to meet people you normally wouldn't meet. So you get to work with odd prime ministers and actors and things like that. So it's good fun, good job. And you're always somewhere different with nice people in generally nice locations. Yeah.
So not a bad job to do.
No, it's good fun, good, yeah.
So Dave, I know you've worked all around the world. Where's your most favourite city to take photos?
It's a tough one. I don't know if I've got favourite cities, but I've got favourite locations and favourite light.
Yes.
Like I think there's even locally, you got the Port Hills, and you see there's a reason why so many people do wedding photos and family photos and things like that up there because the light's really good. And I think we're quite lucky in New Zealand with really good light. Same in Australia. Well, in Australia, it can be a bit full on at times. It's just making sure you've got an option to keep out of the wind. I think
Yes.
can be a bit special. I've done so many shoots that because you're often shooting separate seasons because of what's going on in Europe, we'll be in the middle of winter up on the Port Hills shooting a summer range. And the models are just about freezing to death, and you're thinking, how am I going to Photoshop out those purple hands?
Dave, so how would a real estate person or brand or company stand out, in your opinion?
I think it would be by knowing their own market and also being aware of their own brand and having that personalisation they put on it. I've shot quite a bit with Grenadier. Your team are pretty good at it. I think they're well briefed as well, that they understand where they are within the market. Like Ali Aiken, I've worked with quite a few times, and she has a professionalism she brings. She knows she's at the top, but she also demands the same of you as a photographer almost. Like she teaches you as you go.
Yes.
And she knows exactly where she is. Also thinking Johnny Nichols and his team too. They always come prepared, and they come prepared with quite a few choices of outfits and things like that because they know that they need to be across certain markets and just have get your bang for your buck out of a shoot really, and
Yes.
have a few options.
Yeah, so preparation is key because you don't want to get just one look. You want to perhaps get the business card, you want to get the lifestyle look.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe out in the field look. Yeah,
Yep.
and so that you can use them in different, mediums potentially.
That's it, because often people get a headshot and it just looks like a passport photo and it's quite boring.
Yes.
But if you look at how it'll be used, whether it be a Facebook cover photo or in an ad, you might need one where there's a lot of negative space to one side or space to another, depending on how the designers will use it. So really
Yes.
just covering a couple of full-length photos, getting everything just so that you don't have to go, oh gosh, we have to do another shoot now. You've already got it in the bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me from a somewhat dummy's point of view, what does negative space mean? Sounds kind
negative
of
space,
like
as
the
if-
Matrix.
Oh, so that does sound like that. It's just if you have a photograph that's
Yes.
like a rectangle shape and someone's smack bang in the middle.
Yes.
And then if I have them over to the side, and
Yes.
there's maybe a kitchen or something showing in the background, that may be where a Grenadier logo goes or your name
okay.
or things like that. It just gives the graphic designers a bit more space to work
To
around.
balance out. Yeah.
I often do that with fashion shoots. You see them zoomed in, but it will actually be shot a bit back because it'll depend where they position the model on a page or if it's an empty page next to it, whether that needs to be extended and things like that. Yeah. So it's just thinking of the graphic designers ahead of you and making sure that they're not like, why didn't you shoot a bit more space?
Is there, thinking wider, is there any photos you see that other photographers have done that you go, wow, that looks pretty cool?
Yeah,
Like what
quite a
grabs
lot.
your attention?
Quite a lot, actually. I think when it just, there's so much good work being done out there, but I just think when it's on brand and it connects well, there's nothing worse than when it looks like you get some people who try to copy competition and things like that, and you think, oh, that's not them. That looks a bit weird.
Yeah.
It's
contrived.
Just making sure that it's a bit true and who they are and everything. Yeah, I mean, you can be definitely aspirational and things like that, but just making sure it's not bordering on silly. Yeah, because it doesn't really happen in real estate, but it happens a lot with. I see some interior designers, and it's like, what is going on? This is more in America, like the way they portray themselves, as more like a starlet or a bit odd, different culture, I guess.
How do you, I feel like, taking someone's photo is a real sort of insight into who they are as a personality. And so how do you make people feel at ease in front of the camera?
It's pretty easy. I think it's sort of the banter, not the banter, talking to them in a certain way before you get there and everything. I think some shoots where somebody turns up at the last minute or they're rushed and stressed,
yes,
it's pretty important to be there while they're getting hair and makeup and just chat to them so they go, oh, this guy's not a weirdo, or this is going to be an enjoyable experience, because it is unnatural and uncomfortable having your photograph taken like that. So.
Yes.
Also, I think I've been on some shoots in the early days where I was assisting, and a model would be standing there and they'd do something with their hand, and the photographer would say, oh, don't do that with your hand. And all day you could see them thinking, what did I do with my hand?
Yes.
And they wouldn't quite
They'd
know.
overthink it, yeah.
So you sort of compliment them. You'll be more like, oh, that looks good when you do that, or it looks good when you look this way, rather than give someone a negative that they'll then think of.
Yes, so you found that sharing praise helped boost them rather than...
Yeah. And it made them feel more comfortable, and then they'd come out.
Yeah. In terms of real estate, what tips would you give people trying to create a brand, trying to put their image out there and make them relatable in the marketplace?
Yep. Well, for starters, I think it's one of the few industries that's actually on display. So you can actually make a brand. You think if you're an accountant, you'd never see a photo of yourself or your spreadsheet on a billboard. Whereas I'm always driving behind buses, seeing people I know and things like that. But I think I don't like to overuse the word authenticity, but I think personalisation and knowing your market, because I've seen some real estate agents, mainly overseas, where they'll try to copy someone from America or something like that, and in Australia or New Zealand that looks pretty bizarre, whereas it's more knowing your niche market and, just expanding a bit within that.
How do you capture their personality?
I think it's capturing their personality, but also their professionalism.
Yes.
Because I have a real responsibility with that, because you get a classic example. If I'm in a photo, I smile like an idiot. And I do, but people go, I don't want to work with him. He looks like an idiot. So it'll be more like the angle of head and things like that is just something to be aware of. Because if your chin goes up just a fraction or two, it can look a bit haughty. So it's just more that it's on a level that people will connect with and think, I can imagine them in my home, selling my home, but still maintaining that professionalism.
Yes, excellent, because you're trying to make them relatable and warm, right?
Yeah, and it's an industry where image does mean a lot, so it's sort of giving it the seriousness it deserves.
Yeah. So if people were turning up with maybe too shorter skirts or too deeper, necklines, would you say perhaps that's not the image we're looking for?
Actually, I probably wouldn't say that. It depends, because you can Photoshop it to change it after. But it depends if it's on brand for what they're doing. And particularly you think it's on a billboard and there might be a photo of them next to yourself or Ben or someone like that. So it sort of has to be at that level. And just also, I guess one thing too at most shoots is to take a few options of clothing and things like that, just so that you can maximise the beneficial aspect of the shoot and cover quite a few, because a lot of agents now are writing columns and things like that, so you don't want to use the same photo everyone knows, but have a few up your sleeve should you require them.
Yes. And that also leads me to another question. How regularly should we update our photos? Because I know I've been in the industry 20 years and some people are still using the same photo they started their real estate career in.
Interestingly enough, I have a photograph on my website that was probably taken 15 years ago before my beard went grey, and I've met people and they go, oh, is that what you look really old? And it's like I'm a catfishing person now because the photo's so young, so I'm probably not one to talk. But I don't know. I think maybe every couple of years, and depending on if you update your hair or things like that regularly,
Yes.
it might be, a
Us
good
ladies are
opportunity.
often changing colour here and things
Or
and
if
length.
fashions
and,
change a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't know, a lot of people don't really age over the years that much. I don't know.
Yeah. In terms of the whole photoshopping and those sort of things, what's your theory about that? Because, like I've got a lot of lines now, but I'm kind of happy with those lines.
Yeah,
People try and Photoshop, I still want people to think they're meeting me and that I look like my photo.
Yeah, I think that's important. I'm a bit the same. Like the more wrinkles I've got, I like. Whereas when I was younger, I looked like a fat baby or something, like just without them. But I think that, you've got to look like you look.
Yeah.
Often people have unrealistic ideas of what Photoshop is, though. You see things, I don't know, on Facebook and there'll be some model and they'll stretch her neck and do things like this, and people assume that's what we do. But often it's just getting rid of a speck of dust on a coat and things like that.
Yes,
or
it's
just,
more those sort of things.
Yeah. But you've got to look like what you look, because if you were to see me on my website and meet me, you'd be like, what's going on?
I remember seeing a photo of me and they'd photoshopped, I've got a slightly crooked tooth, and they'd put a straight tooth in, and I was like, this was not Grenadier. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a bit pretty rude, isn't it?
And they didn't even ask me. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I worked with a singer once, actually, who I'd worked with a couple of times, and she got in touch with me and said, oh, do you think there's anything wrong with my face? And she's stunning. But I said, what do you mean? She sent me these photos that another photographer had taken. They'd completely changed her jaw and shape of her face. And it was like, well, you've got to look like what you look like.
Yeah. I think that's this sort of insta crazy world that we live in, that everyone's got to look perfect, right? But sharing and showing your personality and who you are is important, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. And a bit of character's good.
Yeah. What are your most fondest memories or things you're most proud of throughout your career as a photographer?
Oh, there's been so many. It's actually hard to think of any in particular, but I think just working with different brands and people and being happy with the result. And you often don't see it at the time because on a shoot day, there's a lot going on, but afterwards you look back and you see it somewhere. And I think, like I said earlier about accountants or people that really see their work, I get to see mine, and you'll be driving behind a bus or going past a billboard and see it, and you just think, oh yeah, that was good, that turned out really well. But I think for me it's probably the energy of the day and the people you work with, because it's not a solo thing. Like when you do a shoot, you'd know from ones you've been on with me, there's 15, 16 people, and every role is vitally important. You're just capturing it, and often you've got someone like Ashley in your ear directing how it should be anyway. And that's been discussed with Andy and the board and things like that. So you're more a camera operator than coming up with it yourself. It's like a group effort that everyone puts in their best.
Yeah. I've always found you amazing, and probably from that perspective of show praise, you're like, oh, Lisa, that looks great or whatever.
Yeah,
and tell me I'm great and I'll be great kind of philosophy.
You give people that feedback, because a lot of people don't think they're photogenic, but everyone's got really good angles, and you'll just know from someone will do something like, oh, that's it. That's where they look good.
Yeah. I know that you did our homegrown shoot, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And those images look amazing. You know,
thank you.
It's so cool.
I think that was largely to the environment Ashley created on the days, actually, because everybody came and felt comfortable and had a good time and really enjoyed it. And they looked so great anyway, the way they were dressed. I think all we had to do was change one gentleman's shoe colour just to match the whole thing, but it was fairly simple.
Because obviously the more moving parts you add to it, the more challenge, right?
I think the real challenge is one I did with you recently, where we had one gentleman who was about 7'12" standing next to you, and how we'd sit him and make him look like a normal sized human.
I like to stand above them because I'm so used to them all towering over me. Tell me, is there anybody in the world that you'd really love to photograph?
Anna Wintour.
Anna Wintour.
Yep. Haven't photographed her, but I'd like to.
Okay. We're putting it out there, Anna, if you're watching.
Yes.
Who's been your most favourite person to shoot that you're allowed to tell us about?
There's quite a few. I think.
Or some of your favourites.
Okay. There's been actors and people like that have been good singers, and people that have been fun. Let me think. That I always mention John Key, because I remember that was quite early on in my career, and he gave me some pretty good business advice and stuff, and was just really warm and cool to work with. And whenever I've seen him since, pops out and says hello, which has bit weird. But it's just really good. I don't know, it just felt like a bit of a milestone, because in Australia you'd never get asked to photograph a Prime Minister or have a chance to or anything like that. So yeah, that was just pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, it's been amazing speaking with you on
nice
the
to speak to you
podcast.
too.
Thank you
thanks
for
having
all
me
you
on.
do, and thanks for the fabulous images you put out there.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. It was great.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Grenadier podcast. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Please give us 5 stars. We'd really appreciate it.